Yep.
Yep, we're good.
Okay, I want to call the committee of the whole meeting for Monday, March 9th, 2026 to order. I'll turn it over to Jody to say her little note.
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor Barton. Please note that Committee of the Whole meetings are streamed live and recorded on YouTube. Attendees acknowledge that in accordance with Section 20 Sub 2 of the Access to Information Act and Section 4 Sub C of the Protection of Privacy Act, names, addresses, and other details provided when speaking at a council meeting will be publicly shared. Should you have any questions related to the collection or disclosure of personal information, please contact the Legislative and Advisory Services Division for the Town of High River by sending an email to atip@highriver.ca. That's ATIPP@highriver.ca.
Perfect. Thank you, Jody. Appreciate you doing that. We have two items today on our agenda. First thing I want to do though is do the adoption of the agenda, and I'm going to ask for Councillor Garth Brookwell to be resolved that the Committee of the Whole adopt the agenda for the Committee of the Whole meeting on March 9th, 2026 as presented.
I grant you that motion.
Perfect. Yeah.
Sir, could I ask for an amendment?
You sure?
Just a correction in number 5. What? Sorry? Oh, I'm sorry. I've jumped ahead. I'm on the minutes.
Okay, so you want to do the next one?
Nope. Sorry. I didn't get a lot of sleep last night.
And can I ask for a motion from Councillor Jones, be resolved that the Committee of the Whole adopt the minutes from the February 23rd, 2026 Committee of the Whole. Come on. So formal. No? Okay. What do I have to say?
We need to have a vote on the motion that Councillor Brookwell put on the floor for the adoption of the agenda.
Okay.
Ask us if we're all in favor.
Are we all in favor?
I threw you off, sorry.
Okay. Sorry. That's okay. Okay, number 3, adoption of the minutes from the February 23rd, 2026 Committee of the Whole minutes. Can I get a motion from Councillor Jones, be resolved that the Committee of the Whole adopt the minutes from February 23rd, 2026 Committee of the Whole meeting as presented?
I'll give you that motion.
Thank you.
Could I ask for an amendment?
You can.
Under number 5, just for clarification under copy with council, the third bullet there, where it says westbound turning lights coming out of Montrose at 12th Avenue and 5th Street. The concern was westbound traffic on 12th turning into Montrose. So just for clarification, because I know Riley's going to look into that, so we just want to make sure he's got the right information.
I thought it was eastbound though too, because we have the same problem going eastbound.
It's the hill coming up on the eastbound lane,
Yeah.
and when you're facing west, if there's a truck or any larger vehicle apt to turn into Montrose, to turn left off of 12th,
Yeah.
is where the issue is coming up. There's no clear sight for anybody turning left there off of 12th.
Same problem the other way though too.
Well, it's flat going the other way, so it's a lot more.
Even if you have traffic there though, right? Same.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So how do we reflect that in the change of, are they right to do that?
Yeah, you're all right to do that, it's just an amendment to those minutes.
Okay.
And so we'll make those
As
changes.
amended.
Just for clarification, would you like us to put eastbound and westbound on 12th Avenue, turning into Montrose? No? So it's just westbound. Okay.
Okay, so you're good with that?
Yes.
Councillor
What are
Cody?
we amending it to?
Just
Turning
adding,
lights?
No, just asking that because it says right now,
Yeah.
coming out of Montrose onto 12th, that's not the direction. It was westbound turning into Montrose.
Okay.
you good with that?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify.
okay, no worries. All right, is everybody in favor? Adopting the minutes, okay? As amended, correct. So it's passed as amended. Okay. We're on to number 4. Our first delegation is from Rowan House Society, Lynette and Jen. You can come up and give us your presentation.
So hello everyone, and thank you so much for having us here this afternoon. My name is Lynette Salden, and I'm the Executive Director of Rowan House Society. And with me is Jen Simon, who is our Program Lead for the Community Engagement Programs. Domestic violence is not a private issue. It is not a family matter. It is not something happened somewhere else. It is a crisis happening behind closed doors, in our neighborhoods, our schools, and workplaces, and it is costing lives. Every single day, survivors wake up and make impossible choices. They choose between fear and survival, between staying and risking harm, or leaving and risking everything they've ever known. Many have no safe place to go, no financial independence, no support system, no voice. Right now, someone is waiting for a safe bed. Right now, a child is laying awake listening to violence through the bedroom walls. Right now, a survivor is wondering if anyone cares enough to help. We can be that help. And today we want to share how, through our 7 core programs, we're working to bring safety, healing, and hope to those who need it most. We're here today to provide an update on the supports available to this community and to talk about how we can work together to make differences for the people in our lives who may be affected by violence and abuse, or the constituents you may meet in your work. Because chances are you already know someone impacted, you just may not know it yet.
Our 7 core programs are 24-hour support line, emergency shelter, children's program, preventative education, outreach and legal resource navigator, and safe at home program. Those programs I hope that you guys are familiar with, and if not, please reach out on our website or reach out to one of us and we'll be happy to help. Some of our new initiatives that have been upcoming is, as of September of 2025, we became a pet-friendly shelter, because no one should have to leave their safety and leaving behind a loved pet. We even have a resident cat. Her name is Violet. She brings comfort and calm to those who in most difficult days and in a person's life. Lynette is definitely the executive director, but Violet is the boss. We also have implemented the REASE program, a secure encrypted platform that individuals can safely document experiences of domestic violence and abuse. They can choose to connect or simply record for future use. It gives survivors control over their own story.
We're also incredibly excited to be partnering with Dr. Nicole Latondra and Dr. Martha Hart in a 36-month pilot project called Attach. This initiative focuses on youth ages 11 to 17, an age group who are often overlooked, to enter our emergency shelter. Through this project, we support them in navigating the emotional and physical complexities of experiencing violence while strengthening the child and parent bond. In doing so, we create a brighter, more resilient future. Our school programming was recently revised by external consultants to reflect best practices and stronger community connection, and we're proud to say that we launched it effective January 2026.
Each year, dedicated community partners host third-party fundraisers on our behalf. We participate in local events that strengthen the connection and expand our impact. In addition, Rowan House Society hosts 3 core fundraisers events that help us shine a light onto domestic violence and abuse, and afterwards you may get a little flashlight to help us shine. We do have one of them that are actually coming up this week, so please tune in on Thursday, March 12th on C97, 7, 90s and Now. Tune in for your support. We also have a golf tournament on June 8th, and we would totally welcome a High River Council team. We also have the Rowan event in November. If you've never been, we would love for you to join us with connection and music. Through these partnerships and events, our goal is simple but powerful. Increase awareness across the region so that anyone who needs support knows exactly where to find it.
So at Rowan House Society, we believe change begins with truth, courage, and visibility. That is why we say, shine the light on domestic violence and abuse. Far too long, domestic violence has existed in the shadows, quieted by fear, stigma, and isolation. When something remains hidden, it becomes harder to name, harder to challenge, and harder to escape. It represents reassurance that you are not alone.
It is a beacon guiding them towards strength, support, and a future free of violence. But it also calls upon us, because when we shine a light, we are inviting our community to look closely, to learn deeply, and to stand boldly beside survivors. Thank you for helping us to ensure it reaches every single person who needs it. Thank you.
Perfect. That was a good presentation. I did have one question now, and I'll ask everybody else's. What was the name of the 36-month pilot project again?
Attach, yeah.
Okay.
And so I'm really happy and excited to say that all the children's program team has now been trained, and we're going to be now moving to the next phase of the pilot project, which is really important.
That's cool.
Can you share more what that looks like, or
Sorry?
can you share more about that project?
So what it is they're going to be providing youth groups for that hard to serve, I would say, population at the emergency shelter. A lot of times when the youth come in, they really like to isolate. They don't want to be part of, being at the shelter. They kind of go on their cell phones, which we all know that youth like, and we all are guilty of it. But we're really trying to make sure that during the 30 days that they're with us, that they have opportunities to learn, grow, and that they know that there's people out there that care deeply for them, and they want to see some support in a different way. So that is, like I said, it's really about coming together. They're going to be talking in a group setting and having a whole bunch of the youth together to talk about their experiences, also to just kind of heal during that period of time. So yeah, stay tuned.
I like it.
Very cool. Anybody else have any questions? Kevin?
Just one, Lynette. It struck
Yeah.
me when you said this program was for 11 to 17-year-olds. So if I'm someone coming to the shelter and I have an 18-year-old child that lives at home, is that child allowed to stay at the shelter?
Yeah, we do. And so just so you know, generally, if they're still with their parents or with their mom, absolutely they can enter the shelter. Yeah.
Okay, I
Yeah,
was
we're
just
really
curious.
trying to be much more, not making sure no one's facing domestic violence and abuse alone. So we've really opened up, like I said, even coming pet friendly was another way to make sure that no one's being left behind. Yeah, so stay tuned because there's more initiatives coming up for 2026 and 2027 that we're wanting to do at Rowan House. So
Fantastic, thank you.
Yeah, that's great.
Great.
Anybody else? Questions? No? Oh, Michael?
Yeah, since you're here, thank you for the presentation.
you're welcome.
I'm trying to ask, your interpretation of how the town of High River is working with your organization overall.
I have to
Just
say,
overall.
yeah, overall, I will say I've noticed I've been there 4 years, which is absolutely hard to believe. And I feel that whenever possible, I know that somebody from town council has come to support or to attend some of our events, which I think is fantastic and it speaks volume. I think one of the ways that I would love is to see how we can further collaborate and partner for the community in a different way. And I know, Jenny, I'm sorry, I'm going to put you a little bit on the spot, but Jenny has been involved in attending our primary prevention initiative, which is with Dr. Carolyn Clausen, Sharon Blackwell, Shift with Lana Wells, as well as YW Banff and also Big Hill Haven. And we're really trying to get to the root causes of domestic violence in each of our communities. And so Jenny has attended each and every one of our 3 key events, and we came up with 6 recommendations, and that was specific to High River. And so we're going to be moving on to our next phase, and that's when we're really going to want to have town council involved in how we can kind of get to the root causes of domestic violence. And we also have an initiative that is going to be working with our CMP in High River, Okotoks, Falcon, Nanton, and Diamond Valley. So stay tuned to that because we're going to be looking at the rates of domestic violence here in our communities and then setting up our next steps of how we can make a difference moving forward.
Okay.
So what I would say is we're going to be asking for more assistance and help from town council for this 2026, 2027
Which means what?
specific. It's to be involved in some of our group stuff that we're doing to make a difference. So one of the recommendations is changing media and the way that we speak about domestic violence in our community. So that's going to be one. The other one is about engaging newcomers and temporary foreign workers in a different way so they're not feeling left all alone at times. So this is where the town can really support us as we're moving forward through that recommendation of report. So I can actually send that to everybody to see, to dig deeper with it.
I would like to see that.
Yeah, absolutely, I can do that.
I think what's interesting in even attending those events is
Yeah.
even just a presence there as a rep from town council.
Mm-hmm.
really changes the way people look at us too.
Well, thank you for everything you've done.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I've enjoyed going to them,
Yeah.
I've learned a lot. I mean, if there was definitely something, specific to bring back, I would do that, but even just being there and talking to the people, because there's a wide variety of people who've attended. But just me being there was just a big thing to a lot of people.
Mhm. And hearing your voice to
Yeah.
be part of that, I think, is key. So we're still in the early stages about what we're going to do and how we're going to handle those 6 recommendations, but it's going to include town council for sure and gathering that support. So that will be top of our priorities.
Thank you.
Yeah. No, you're welcome.
Sure. That's great. Anybody else have questions? Good? Okay.
So thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks
thank
so
you
much.
very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
On to item 4.2 with the Foothills Local Immigration Partnership, and Stacey Trim is going to give us a presentation.
Okay, I'm gonna stand just so I can see this a little bit better instead of going like this. I work visually. So I'm with the Foothills Local Immigration Partnership. I'll just scroll up a smidge here. So I'm gonna tell you a little bit about what the Local Immigration Partnership is. So my role is the coordinator of this partnership, keyword being partnership. So who's the partnership? It can be service providers, municipal government, law enforcement, schools, employers, cultural associations, faith, community groups, volunteers, and newcomers. What do we do? It's a community-based initiative to help welcome, integrate, and support newcomers and immigrants. And how does it function? We have an advisory council and we have working teams, which I will explain a little bit more. The idea behind this is kind of a group for everybody. Because this is a community-wide initiative, the idea is trying to focus on things systemically. So often, I think a lot of people are familiar with FCIS, Foothills Community Immigration Services. Now that's direct client services, whereas my focus is on community. How can we change things on a community level so that if I came here as a newcomer or an immigrant, would I feel welcomed in the community? Would things be accessible to me in the community? Let me just scroll up again. So here's some of our current partners that we have, and we have kind of like a great wide range of people. A lot of service providers. We also have community volunteers. We have a faith group. Cargill Meat Solutions is on there too, so we have some employers. Just to give like a little example, feeling a little stressed with the 5 minutes, so I'm like, talking fast.
You're good, you're good.
Okay,
Yes.
great. So here's just an example of who our partners are. Now, FLIP is acronym for Foothills Local Immigration Partnership. It's been around for a while, but I think that not a lot of people are familiar with it, and a lot of people kind of connect it to FCIS. So we are 2 separate projects, but they are my coworkers, but we do definitely have different roles. Can I scroll again? Okay, so this just kind of gives, I just wanted to give a quick example because sometimes I've had a few little blockades be like, no, we already have FCIS present. I'm like, I am different. So ultimately we exist because we're funded by a branch of the federal government called IRCC, which is Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada. And what they do is they have their prerogatives. They focus on all the immigration across the nation. And with their priorities, they look for nonprofits to help immigrants when they land into Canada. So their focus has been Calgary Catholic Immigration Society, as they are a main funder of CCIS. But what CCIS did was they realized that when people land in Canada and come to these urban centers, that they're looking for employment, and a lot of these immigrants come to the rural areas surrounding the urban centers. And so what CCIS did is they took some of that funding and they invested in the rural areas around Calgary, which includes Okotoks and High River, the Foothills area. And I am from Cold Lake when I was a kid, and then Wainwright when I was a teenager. I am from rural areas, and we did not have these resources. So this is kind of a really unique, special opportunity and service that's offered in this area that is not accessed and not available in many rural areas across the province. So what I like to just focus on is that FCIS, and here's a couple of another examples of their other rural locations around the city. They do direct services, like I mentioned, and these are examples of local immigration partnerships. Me being the lead over the Foothills. So if we can just scroll up again.
Can you just explain the difference between the two then?
Yeah, so FCIS by direct services means they have clients. So they come in and they're like, I just moved here, I don't know what bank to go to, I don't know how to register my child for school, I don't speak the language. These are like basic needs that they need one-on-one help with. Or I'm here as a temporary foreign worker, or I'm here as a permanent resident, I really want to become a Canadian citizen, can you help me with this? I don't understand the paperwork. Or I need access to services, my child has this, and so they might be able to refer them to things like Inclusion Foothills. So those are one-on-one, so that's direct. Whereas what I do is indirect, so I don't have clients. What I do is I work with the partners. So I work with McMahon, or I work with the library, or I could work with the rec center. I work with all these different partners, and we come up with projects, initiatives, campaigns. I don't have a curriculum. It's kind of like what we see. This is like a grassroots thing. So what do we see as a need in the community? How can we respond to it? What are some things that are adaptable? So I tend to not focus on necessarily big events, but what are some things that we can do that will impact the community? Little adaptations. Which might include an event, but I can give an example of a couple of projects that we're working on. I hope that makes sense.
Yes, no, thank you.
So I just like to give a little sense that it's not just a here place, like local immigration partnerships, because they're federally funded, there's local immigration partnerships across the whole country. So of course, there's there's between 30 to 40 in Ontario and Quebec. In Alberta, we have close to 20 local immigration partnerships, but like I said, I am from a small town, not from this area. And we did not have this. So it's really nice that they targeted this area as a need, as an area that could use this service, that there is a need, and they have the numbers, which is why FCIS exists in High River, is because the need was already identified. All right, next one, please. So this kind of gives an example of something, even though I said I don't just focus on events, but this was an event example. So what happened was I had a community leader from the Filipino community, her name was Lea Rosales, and she came up to me knowing what my role was and said, you know what, could the Foothills Local Immigration Partnership do something where we can learn about the resources? She's like, and as you guys know, are familiar with the area, in Cargill, they bring in a large population from the Philippines to work at Cargill, and she's like, they bring their families, and she's like, they don't speak the language, they don't understand what's happening, the behaviors, the culture, and there's so many resources available in this area, but they're so overwhelmed with step one, trying to find a place to live, trying to help their kids in school, trying to find friends, all these things, that are they gonna go door knocking on 10 different resources? What kind of questions do I ask? What kind of resources available? It's too overwhelming. She's like, can you bring them to the playground where we're already at? This is a place that we already gather. So we did do that. In June, we took our partners across the community and said, we kept it small, and we met at a playground, and we set up some tables with some brochures and some activities for the kids, and we had a really great showing from not just the immigrant community, but also longtime High River citizens, people who were born and raised in Canada, which gave an opportunity for newcomers and immigrants to rub shoulders with longtime Canadians. And that's that integration piece. I really focus on not just doing things that are only for immigrants and newcomers, because how do you become part of the community? So everything I do is community-wide, but with that newcomer immigrant lens of how can we make sure it's accessible to them and know that they're welcome. And so this picture right here is the High River, the one on this picture is the High River one. And our event in June, with minimal advertising, we had over 50 people come, which is really great for our first effort, and it was so successful, the partners wanted to do it again. So in August, we did it again, we had over 80 people come. And it was just a really, word kind of spread, it was fun for the kids, we're in an outdoor space, but we had all of these parents and all of these families learning about what is available in this area. And I will say, coming from a small town myself, that the Foothills area is resource rich, and the piece that's often missing is, are we accessing these resources? And if they're not accessing these resources that are available, why? Why are we not? And so that's what I try to look into, is why are they not being accessed? And sometimes it's because they are overwhelmed. They don't know. Maybe something like this was never available in the countries and the communities that they came from. I'm gonna scroll again. This is another example. So, and this would be a great opportunity for the town too. So every September, there's a global initiative called Welcoming Week. And it's a 10-day period where communities can volunteer and put on events or campaigns to show that this community is welcoming of newcomers and immigrants. And so the High River Library is a wonderful partner of FLIP. And this picture right here, we had local business owners, law enforcement, school representatives, anything that we could think of, not just service providers there. And we did kind of like a speed dating, but it was speed friendshipping, we called it. And we had a great mix of Canadian-born and immigrants come, and they just hopped from person to person and got to ask questions, anything they wanted, or just to have a conversation. So that it was very informal and very personable, and they got to learn something new. But not only that, these business owners and law enforcement and community representatives were also able to learn about the community themselves and what some of those challenges that they have by talking one-on-one. Let me just scroll again, thank you. Another thing that we do is I try to make it more grassroots feel so that we can respond quickly to needs. So this is a picture of myself with Laura Suarez. If some of you might be familiar with her, she's worked for a decade in the school system here. She works as a settlement worker in school, which is a federally funded position to help newcomer and immigrant youth feel connected to the school system. So she works one-on-one with them. And this was a specific High River need. But a lot of her immigrant youth were starting to skip school. And she was like, she's like a second mom to them, and she's like, why are you guys not coming to school? We don't have enough clothes to wear. They were so embarrassed. Yeah. They were embarrassed, and you know, teenagers, like, if you wear the same thing over and over again, they had an outfit, but to wear the same thing over and over again was very embarrassing for them. And so Laura came to Flip, and she's like, can the partners do anything? So what we did was we reached out. We had 7 drop-off points between Okotoks and High River. We had our partners do pickups and drop-offs, and then we met in the High River Library. They offered this space to us for free, which is so wonderful, and we had a pickup space for these families, and it was teen-focused. So we weren't working with baby clothes, and we weren't working with anything like that. So it was teen-focused. We had these teens and their families come and pick up all these clothes for free. And then the kids that weren't able to access it due to transportation or just weren't available that day, she brought it to the Culture Club kids in the high schools, the remaining clothes, and also to Salvation Army. So then, one of our partners is Salvation Army. And this kind of turned into a ripple effect. So Salvation Army, who is one of our partners, reached out, they're like, you know, we sort clothes. And so now our next step is we realized that one of our barriers was that families with young children will go and access resources if they know about them. But the youth don't know that they can access them. And sometimes it's not always available to youth. And so what we are in the midst of planning right now is the youth are going to be taking a tour of Salvation Army, learning about volunteer opportunities, and then doing a free shopping experience there. So again, it's identifying that need of realizing, oh, the youth aren't accessing these resources. Oh, the youth don't know that they can access these resources. So kind of in the process, we're learning things as we go as well. Let's scroll again. This was another thing, the museum in High River here, the Museum of the Highwood, has been amazing. So what they've done is, they shared a little bit with me some of the events that they put on, and I said, do you see any newcomers or immigrants? And I will emphasize, you can't always see diversity, but are we seeing representation from all of our community members at your events? And she said, no, we are not. And so I asked her, in this case, they do a historic haunted walk. And there is a cost involved. That cost can sometimes be a barrier when you're moving here for the very first time and you're just starting out. Another thing was they don't know what's available, and so they were really kind and offered to do a free one night, and we had almost a completely fully booked showing of newcomers and immigrants that were learning about the history of the town, got to learn more about the Museum of the Highwood. They were walking in that door, building that positive association with them. But that's a really key thing for me is, are we seeing our community represented at all of our events? And if we're not, why? So that is going to bring me to kind of another example. Thank you for scrolling so much for me. I'm going to skip this one and just keep on going. Some of our strategies. So one of the strategies that I use, which I've mentioned twice here, is asking why. Why are we not seeing people? So an example of this was talking to the libraries, not just the High River Library, but also Okotoks Public Library. We have a very diverse population in the foothills. Whether or not we always see them at things, they are here. They are definitely present and in large groups. And noticing on the library scale, we weren't seeing any Filipino community members accessing the library. Now, it's one thing if somebody has a personal preference not to go, but if you're not seeing an entire group, which is the largest cultural minority in the Foothills area, not going to the free public community space, time to start asking why. What we learned by asking different community leaders in the Filipino community, how come you guys are coming to the library? What does the library mean to you? Oh, very simple answer. All we had to do was ask why. In the Philippines, you have to have a government granted access to go to a library. Libraries are not for families, libraries are not for communities. Or you might be able to go if you're a university student and studying for a research project. There are barriers, so nobody would even think about going to the library with their family. They came with a cultural barrier. So what we did is we started to do information sessions for youth. Often youth are the spokespeople for their family. So if their parents are still learning English, the youth pick up on the language more quickly than their parents often do. So the youth can often go and say, this is what I learned, and they'll tell the families. So that's one method of doing it. But this is why I think it's important that we ask why when we have big community events, when we're thinking about our town, is if we're missing people, sometimes it's just a little simple tweak of being like, oh, they didn't know that they could come. They did not know, and so it's been a really positive response. So this is an example of us going to the Boys and Girls Club, which the attendees at this nonprofit are almost exclusively newcomer and immigrant youth. And they have a very, very loyal turnout. Any given event, they'll have 30+ immigrant youth come. And so this is us, this is me with Michelle Parker from the High River Library, teaching them, hey, did you know that libraries can do this, and that the library, you can read the whole library webpage in another language. They have Google Translate on there. They have books in other languages. Did you know that you can borrow books from libraries all across Alberta for free? They were thrilled. They were so excited. Then from that step, it was building a trust. It was building a trust with these kids, building a trust with their parents. The next step was we just recently did a tour with these kids physically inside the library where they got to see it. So this is just, and these are kids that some of them have been here since they were small children and haven't been to the library. And now they love the library. They have their library cards, and it's opening the doors that way. Yeah, so this is a question that I always like to just have people mull over. So often when we think about the word accessibility, we might think of like our first knee-jerk kind of gut reaction is to think, you know, do we have extra wide doors for a wheelchair? Is there a ramp? That's one way of thinking, but really when you think about the word accessibility, just is it accessible? And that can be any kind of topic. So for me, with my lens that I focus on is this culturally accessible? And often if I make it culturally accessible, what I'm really doing is making it accessible for everybody. So I'm going to give an example. Is sometimes when we have a website, for example, we will make it sound very professional, make it look really pretty, and we'll use words that make sense if I have a high literacy level in English. Is that culturally accessible? How can I make that culturally accessible? Well, one easy way is putting pictures. Instead of saying aquatics, that's a high-level English word, put a picture of somebody swimming. Suddenly, that is not only accessible for people who don't speak English, but it's accessible for everybody. So sometimes there's little things that we can do. When we make things culturally accessible, we're actually just making it accessible. So here's a little bit of my ask. So the FLIP organization, the way it works is I have a partnership council, and I kind of showed you really quickly who a sample of some of the partners are. This is more identifying barriers. It's advisory. Like, what are we seeing on a community level? What am I seeing from the library's perspective? What am I seeing from the rec center perspective? What am I seeing from any service providers, schools, volunteers? What is their perspective? And that kind of helps to give us direction of where we want to go. From there, we split into working teams, which are essentially committees, and they each have their own theme. And that's where things become actionable. So some of those projects that I mentioned that we've done, like the playground resource events in the park, like the clothing drive, some of the doing these library presentations, these were needs that were identified and then became actionable. So what we're missing is somebody from the town of High River. We would love to have that town council perspective. You guys bring that lens. You guys see things, projects. You see things on that bigger town municipal scale. And we would love to have that voice either on a partnership council or on a working team. to be part of these projects, or to know that they're happening, to know why they're important, to see their impact, and to be a part of that. So I think that would be a great thing. There are often so many of our community members here that immigrate here. They might start off as a temporary foreign worker, but they're planning to stay. They're doing everything that they can to stay. So they're looking for permanent residency and Canadian citizenship, and they're staying in this community. So it's really great to know like what their needs are and how we can make them a part of the community, because they have so many great contributions to give. And that's kind of the end. I think I went over.
No, very good.
It was good. I really appreciate you telling us, giving us a really good overview of what it was, because I honestly hadn't heard of the organization before, but it makes good sense to have that in our community. Any counselors or anybody have question? Go ahead, Michael.
Flip versus FCIS. FCIS is more, I don't know how to explain this, more direct or more tangible. Here's the piece of paper you need to fill out, versus you are more boots on the ground, community involved in, from an integration perspective rather than a services perspective. I'm trying to understand, if I'm looking at this like an org chart, we've got two organizations that could be perceived to be doing the same thing. But I think there's some inherent differences in what you do.
Oh,
That's just
yeah.
what I'm trying to understand more.
Yeah, so they are my coworkers. Like, we have the same funder, we have the same bosses, if that makes sense. We have the same director, but they're considered two separate projects. So FCIS is a project of CCIS, Flip is a project of CCIS. So one of the main differences is, like, I don't have clients, but the reason why it works so well is because when I'm working with community partners looking for those lenses. So an example would be, like, I went to the rec center. I'm like, are you guys seeing repeat, like, from a certain cultural group? Like, are there repeat things that you're like, well, why are they doing this? Or why are they doing that? Or they keep on breaking this rule. Are they breaking it intentionally? Or is it because they didn't have that rule in the country they came from? Is it because they didn't have rec centers where they came from? How can we address this in a way that makes them still feel like they're welcomed and that they feel like they belong? And so for me, I'm able to get that community perspective. And then what works really well is I'm able to reach out to my coworkers who kind of do completely separate work than what I do, like filling out forms and having those clients, and ask for their, like, can we survey them? Can we ask for their thoughts? Can we ask for some of their challenges? So that kind of gives me direct access in a way to newcomers and immigrants. But for me, like, my role is to work with those community partners to make the changes on that community level. So FCIS, they can't do that community work. So if any of you have background in nonprofits are notoriously known for working in silos. Like, this is what I do, and we compete for funding, and we can't really collaborate. And if we could, and if I'd like to collaborate, we just don't have the time or the money. That's what my role is that I can have that time to coordinate and facilitate with multiple partners, which nonprofits do not have the capacity to do. They don't have the funding, the time, the resources to try and coordinate and connect with other nonprofits to make a large-scale coordinated effort, if that makes sense. So that's that coordination aspect, which is why it's part of my job title. I'm the coordinator of, like, with this large-scale partnership in the area.
So thank you, and you just hit on it there, is that siloed existence that happens.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to draw that tether between the two and how you're facilitating that. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
That's good. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Thank you.
It occurs to me that one of the ways to integrate into a community is to become part of the regular community celebrations.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking of Santa Claus Parade, Little Birches Rodeo, those types of things. Is there a mechanism or a way of drawing our new community members into those organizations?
You know, I think there's lots of different ways, and I think the thing about doing nonprofit work is you have to be really creative. You have to be really creative. So, for example, like, I know, and I'm still learning, there's always more groups that I'm learning about, but going to certain faith groups, there's large immigrant populations that attend certain churches. There's places like Boys and Girls Club that are almost all immigrant youth. Going to those places, encouraging them to be a part of it, explaining what it is. explaining that they can be part of it. I have a coworker who immigrated here 17 years ago from Mexico, and she said she was living here for a decade before she went to a rodeo event, which is what High River is known for, because she didn't see anybody like herself there, so she didn't know if she was allowed to, and she didn't know what a rodeo was, so what do I do when I go there if I don't know what's happening? So sometimes those are those little barriers, and the only example I can give of where maybe I felt that way myself was one time I saw an advertisement for powwow, and I thought, that'd be really neat to go to, but am I allowed to go to that? What do I do when I go to this powwow? What are the protocols of when I go to this powwow? That's the only time where I can really think, oh, maybe that's how it feels for them. What do I do if I don't know what they're doing with these horses or cows or sheep, or, you know, if it's completely new and then you don't see anybody else like you there? Sometimes it's just a matter of knowing that they're welcome, or even on a poster being like, this is what, it might seem silly, but this is what a rodeo event is. All are welcome. This is free, or, you know, things like that, because that's what Banff is doing with their local immigration partnership, is trying to encourage with these events, maybe just having a small subtitle, a sentence or two, explaining what it is and that all are welcome, so that if I hadn't ever gone to something like that, I would kind of know in a general sense what it was, instead of being like, I don't know, not gonna go, I don't know what that is. So there's different ways, but sometimes, and I think High River is kind of, is a perfect size, because it's not so big where it's impossible to reach everybody. Like, you can start to reach pockets of community groups and to start to spread the word, which is what we've been trying to do with the libraries. And it's been really, like, we're kind of just starting out, but it's been really successful reaching out to these groups and just starting to build that awareness. So kind of picking one thing, and whether it's community events, what community events are we seeing that we're missing big parts of our community from? And a lot of people, you know, even community partners that have been born and raised in Canada will be like, well, we know that there's Filipinos here and that there's some Mexicans, but is there anybody else? And I'm like, oh yes, India, Morocco, like Trinidad, we have people that represent all over the world right here in High River. So
I guess my question was, do we have any way yet of drawing our new community members into the organizations that run the rodeo, or that run the Santa Claus Parade, or that run, so that they can get really involved and be a part of these events? Is there any program that does that?
there's not a set program, but I think that would be a great project to work on. I know in Saskatchewan, they're working on having newcomer and immigrants part of a program where they can come sit on a board, not as a voted-in member, but to see how it's run, to learn those leadership skills. That could be the same thing with running a town event, like invite community leaders to come in. Will you be a part of this? And I think they want to, but sometimes they don't know how, or if they don't have a friend, or they don't know how to be a part of it. And so I think that's the thing, is kind of just starting with those small steps and reaching out. But I would love to work on a project like that where we could connect with people. But no big program that exists. That's just one package.
Councilor Cooey.
Thanks. Great presentation, really informative. Thank you. You're doing some really amazing stuff there. You've got an ask on the table. Just looking for a little bit more information. In a perfect world, what would be your priority and what would that look like?
A single priority?
Give a couple. When it comes to involvement from the town.
From the town?
And your ask, yeah.
So, one, it would be, okay, well, I'm gonna say two.
That's fine.
Okay, one, I would love somebody from the town on the partnership council. It feels like there's a seat empty if we don't have that town perspective there.
Does that meet often, regularly?
It meets once every 2 months for like an hour to an hour and a half. And so sometimes it's just informative, this is the work that's happening, or a little bit of a training, but also an opportunity to brainstorm, what are we seeing, kind of that voice. And I've had, Town Councillor Rachel Swensley from Okotoks, while she was still Town Councillor, came and sat, and sometimes she was there to just observe so that she could see what was happening in the community and understand, so then she could kind of have that lens when she came to Town Council. So sometimes that's not always feeling like you have to necessarily say something, but sometimes it's, what am I gleaning from these meetings that everybody's talking about to kind of bring to Town Council? Because it's a unique perspective, but it's a big part of the population. We haven't done a census since 2021, but even back then, it's a significant number of our population. And those are the only ones that are even counted. Sometimes temporary foreign workers aren't even counted in those numbers. So just keep that in mind. But then the other thing I would love is to just be able to have more connection, to be aware of the work that's happening. So for example, when working with town-funded facilities like the recreation center, being able to discuss like what are some of those needs, especially with the rec center being renovated right now, some small things maybe in terms of like pictures or wording that would be more culturally accessible now. That kind of comes from a town lens and town access, it's municipal based, to be able to get some of those changes in place, or things on a website, communication platforms, those things to make them culturally accessible. Those are all on a town level. It's kind of above what I can do, so being able to have a connection on that town level would make it possible to make things more welcoming, inclusive, belonging for everybody in the community.
Great, thank you for that.
That was number one. What was number two?
No, that was number two.
Ah,
One was the voice, and two was being able to have that access to see some just small little tweaks that we learn about on a town level. That would be things that you guys can make changes.
Would you be able to send us just a little synopsis like you did, maybe to send it to Jody or Lunch Services so that we could circulate it amongst councillors and we can figure out what we can do and what not?
I'd be happy to do that.
Okay,
Yeah.
that'd be great. Any other questions? No? Okay,
Thank you.
that
Thank
was
you
good,
for
I
your time.
appreciate that, that was informative, thanks Stacy. Okay, on to number 5, councillors' question and answer. Right, it's councillors. Okay, is there any questions or answers we have?
I've got one.
Okay,
And the people that answer it may not be here today, I'm not sure, but one of the questions that was brought to me was the handicap parking stalls or area signs on 3rd Avenue downtown have gone. They've been moved. And the people, the businesses on 3rd Avenue are concerned about the loss of at least one parking stall and the movement of another to the end of the block. So so I'd appreciate it if someone could look at that and get back to me so I can let them know whether it's a temporary or they've somehow decided to permanently move the handicap parking spots.
Well, certainly not that I'm aware of it to move them. So
Pardon me?
Not that I'm aware of that they were to move them,
Okay.
but those signs may be hit and they just haven't had a chance to get them put back up because of the frosting.
Okay, one has been moved from one end to the other.
Okay.
So anyway, if you could just look into it, let me know. I can let them know. Thank you.
okay.
Because the one was in the middle of the block, wasn't it, Vicky?
Pardon me?
The one was kind of back in the middle of the block.
Yeah, but closer to McLeod Trail, and it's now all the way on the other end of the block.
Yeah, not at the far.
Yeah, exactly.
So there used to be one right across from, like, right in front of Vinyl Cafe in that area, is that what you're referring to?
On the other side of the road, yeah.
Yeah, there was, so
Yeah, it's gone.
I wonder if that has to do with, you
It
remember I
was there
sent,
yesterday.
I sent you a note that one day and the signage were, it was
Yeah.
flipped backwards,
Yeah,
but you guys flipped it, I
Yes.
saw that.
yeah, we did change the signage, and so I don't know why the signs are down unless
Yeah.
they're being, the sign base is being broken, they can't get to it until the frost is everything. But
Yeah.
let me take a look, I'll ask Public Works and just see what the.
Thank you.
Have you driven down there to see that they're gone, or just from what she said?
I saw that they were gone, I didn't look today, but I saw that they were gone the other day.
Mine was just there the other day and noticed that it was there, but.
Yeah, if you don't use the specific handicap spot,
You don't
But I
have,
know, but I know not to use.
you don't necessarily notice it's gone. Yeah.
Did I see somebody else had a, Councillor Cooey?
Yeah, just a question that came out of Coffee with Council the other night. A question regarding the Recplex, a concern, I guess, regarding the Recplex is that following construction, will curlers be able to park on the north side of the building, closer to that entrance? The rumor mill says that there'll be no parking back there, so I said I would follow up with clarification whether that is the case or not.
The intent was that was just temporary for construction, was a laydown area for them, and that parking would return back to normal operations. So I haven't seen or heard of any other changes, but I'll get back to you on that one too.
Because there'll still be that entrance there?
There'll still be that entrance there, and it still has to be an egress point from a fire perspective. So there still has to have that access, so the intent was always that this was always temporary in nature, and I have not been informed of any change to that to make that permanent.
Thank you.
Something I might just add to that, when we were going out that entrance the other day when we did our tour, and I hadn't been there for probably a year, I just noticed that there was a ramp on the back. Yeah. Where did that, like, I'm glad to see it.
So as
Well,
part
that's
of,
pretty temporary.
yeah, it is technically a temporary ramp. It was there, put in place there when we had to do the renovations to the front area to have an alternate egress for emergency purposes, to allow the closures of what we did on the front side. So that had to be there. I think it's wood right now, and so certainly something that we'll monitor and whether or not it can stay or not. It is built to code, so it could stay, and we could even turn that into a metal ramp.
I liked it better than those
I was gonna say-
stairs.
I like the ramp better than the stairs too.
Yeah, those extruded metal stairs are not great. Great for letting snow fall through them, but it's certainly not great for people walking up.
So
and down
having
or
something more
except-
permanent might be definitely an option.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that are permanent.
No, the ramp.
I know, but it is permanent. Like, that's the really good point, is that Chris made the point, is that you have to build it to code. So it,
There's no reason
literally, it can
to
just
take it out.
Yeah, we don't need to pull it out per se.
Well,
No,
it's good,
I don't think there's any rush to do that, but at the end of the day, we certainly would like lower maintenance than just the wood, because,
Yeah.
and something that's more durable.
For sure. Okay, that's good. Did I see another hand over here for a question? Anybody else? Okay. All right, we'll move on to our next section, number 6, which is public questions, and this is an open discussion. Public can bring anything up they want. It doesn't have to be an agenda item per se, so feel free if any of the public wants to bring some up. Al?
Yeah, I have a few questions that are just for my learning, so no issues today, but they're all on the agenda of council, so you got a little time yet, you wanna handle them now? They're pretty direct questions, no issues, just learning.
Where would you prefer them to be? Because
I don't care either way, but I'm thinking you've got a little time here now, shorten your agenda for council time.
Does anybody, go ahead.
I guess it depends on if there's somebody here that can answer your question on those agenda
I
items.
think you can answer most of them.
Okay.
I think also, yeah, if we needed to provide response, would that be okay?
Sure.
If we can't answer it here today, because we don't have everybody from
Yeah.
senior leadership,
I understand.
then we get back to you. If that's
Sure.
good for you, then I think it's good for us.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the first ones have to do with, you have a number of requests for funding from the Community Bible Advisory, and I'm assuming most of them are here because they exceed the number of dollars that the committee can grant.
Right, that's correct, yeah.
Okay, good. And then you also have one in there, which is 5.4, where they're looking for money for the annual High River Stampede breakfast.
That's
I don't see anyone on that request who is actually responsible. All the other ones have some organization that are requesting the money, so there's somebody who's responsible for organizing it, but for this, I don't see anybody who's responsible for it.
It's Rick Green.
It's this, and they have, the Stampede Breakfast is their own organization.
I'm sorry?
The Stampede Breakfast is an organization.
Oh, it's their own organization?
Yeah.
Okay, good, thank you.
Yeah.
And that answered that question. And then I have another one that is 5.5 on that agenda, talking about the natural gas agreement franchise. So what is the purpose? I know I see it on we all see it on our utility bills, but what is the purpose of that thing?
So the purpose of the franchise agreements is to cover, in essence, recoup costs associated with those non-municipal utilities that use municipal right-of-way. So for putting their gas lines into our right-of-way, it's like a rental agreement, I guess, in kind of simple form, Al, to rent that space, to run your gas lines and your power lines within that space. So that's what they're intending for. Now, how the utility companies use that is that it's a flow-through, right? Because what they pay us, it flows directly back to the consumer.
Right, okay. And then you say, gonna leave it at 20%. 20% of what?
20%, Jody, you probably have the detail more on that. I think we can go up to a maximum of 35% within that agreement. So
Yeah,
20%.
of what?
20% of their, how is it
It's
calculated?
20% of your bill.
Of my bill?
Yeah.
Of my consumed gas bill, it's 20% of that?
Yes.
Okay, all right, good. Done, thank you.
Awesome, thank you. So essentially, we're not increasing it, which would mean essentially a tax increase for everybody, so we're staying status quo.
Yeah, and I think we talked about this once
Yes.
before, and I think you gave me a number of how many millions of dollars that is.
Yeah.
If we don't pay it through our gas bill, we lose the revenue, and then you're gonna tack it onto our home tax bill, so
Yeah.
either way, we're gonna pay for it.
Well, exactly, it's, you can use the word that's floated out there is indirect taxation, right? And so that's, even though they're making record profits, right?
Yeah, okay, good, thanks.
Okay, thanks Al. Anybody else? No? All right, well, I guess that's, we can adjourn this meeting at 1:58.
Excuse me?